When it comes to iconic signature moves in basketball, Michael Jordan had the fadeaway, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar mastered the skyhook, and Hakeem Olajuwon left defenders in a daze with the dream shake. But Bill Laimbeer? His signature moves were elbowing, hip-checking, planting his feet in the opponent's landing zone, and flopping at the slightest contact. They called him the Prince of Darkness, the ex-murderer, and the Darth Vader of the NBA. Laimbeer didn't just play for the bad boy Pistons.
I don't believe this. Laimbeer gets in a fight seemingly once a week.
He put the bad in bad boys. Getting into fights was almost a weekly routine.
You never really liked Laimbeer in any social situation?
No.
Yeah.
It's because he was a dirty player.
Even today, many of his former opponents can't stand him. But was Laimbeer really just a fist-swinging brute? Or was there more to this game than just agitating and infuriating his rivals? Despite his well-earned bad boy reputation, Laimbeer was far from a talentless enforcer. In the 1980s, he was the best defensive rebounder in the NBA. He was also one of the first centers to stretch the floor with a reliable three-point shot and was surprisingly a better free throw shooter than Michael Jordan. I don't fight, I agitate, then walk away. So how good was Bill Laimbeer actually? And was he really the dirtiest player in NBA history? To answer that, we need to go back to 1957 when it all began. Bill Laimbeer Jr. was born into wealth. His father was a successful executive in the glass manufacturing industry, and young Bill lived a comfortable life in Chicago and Los Angeles. When he made it to the NBA, he famously joked, "I'm probably the only player in the league making less money than my dad." His privileged background gave him unshakable confidence. He believed he could be successful in anything. Basketball just happened to be the path he chose. Laimbeer's talent started to show when he shot up to 6'11" and led his high school team to a state championship. But his early career was far from smooth. At Notre Dame, he flunked out as a freshman and had to spend over a year in a technical college to regain eligibility. By the time he returned to the team, he was solid but far from a standout, averaging just 7 points and 6 rebounds per game. So when the 1979 NBA draft came around, Laimbeer fell all the way to the third round, selected 65th overall by the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Cavs weren't exactly thrilled with their new big man. Laimbeer wasn't particularly athletic, and unlike traditional centers who dominated in the post, he preferred shooting jumpers like a guard. The team hesitated to offer him a contract, and by the time they did, he had already signed to play in Italy. In Europe, Laimbeer flourished, averaging 21 points and 12 rebounds. After one season overseas, he returned to the NBA at age 23. Despite being second in the league in personal fouls as a rookie, he posted solid numbers, minus 10 points and 8 rebounds per game for Cleveland. But it wasn't until he landed in Detroit that his true impact was felt. In a game against the Pistons, Detroit GM Jack McCloskey saw something in Laimbeer, an unmatched intensity and work ethic. Even in a blowout loss, he fought for every possession. That was all McCloskey needed to see. Early in his Pistons tenure, Laimbeer was the one getting punched. Opponents didn't just dislike him, they despised him. It wasn't long before he realized that if people were going to come after him anyway, he might as well embrace the role. So he leaned into it. The elbows, the trash talk, the mind games, it all became part of his identity, and it worked. The Pistons built their entire bad boys culture around intimidation, and Laimbeer was at the center of it. By the late 80s, Detroit had become the most feared team in the league, and Laimbeer was the face of their nastiness. The Pistons won back-to-back championships in 1989 and 1990, but to this day, Laimbeer's legacy remains one of the most controversial in NBA history. Was he dirty? Absolutely. But was he also a skilled, intelligent player who helped revolutionize the center position? Without a doubt. Hate him or respect him, one thing's for sure, Bill Laimbeer left his mark on the game like few others.
You know, when Laimbeer first came to the Pistons, early on in his career, like guys was just turning around and literally taking their fist and punching him right in the face. And only years later, after taking so many punches in the face, when he started to hit back, he realized, oh, these guys aren't as tough as I thought they were. But when he started hitting back, oh, then it became a problem.
Now, Isaiah's words should be taken with a grain of salt. After all, he was Laimbeer's teammate for 13 years, but there's undeniable truth in his statement. Despite enduring countless hard fouls, Laimbeer remained a fierce competitor. He despised missing games and only sat out 9 during his entire career, most due to suspension rather than injury. Yet in 1984, Laimbeer wasn't the most hated athlete in America. The Detroit Pistons were still seen as a young, exciting team with potential, but not yet a serious threat. That was about to change. The turning point came in the 1984 season when Chuck Daly took over as head coach. His impact was immediate. Under his leadership, the Pistons became an offensive powerhouse, leading the NBA in scoring. After 7 years of struggles, they finally made the playoffs. Laimbeer had also reached new heights, earning his second consecutive All-Star selection. He posted averages of 17 points and 12 rebounds per game while shooting an impressive 53% from the field and 87% from the free throw line. However, despite their resurgence, the Pistons were eliminated in the first round by the New York Knicks. Bernard King was simply unstoppable, averaging 42.6 points per game, at the time the second highest scoring average in a playoff series. While the loss was painful, one thing became clear: the Pistons were no longer an afterthought. They were on the rise. By 1985, the Pistons added a key piece, Vinnie Johnson, a future cornerstone of their bench. That year, Detroit finally secured its first playoff series.
Top of the key for the pop. Oh, it's over. The Pistons have swept New Jersey.
Still, victory since 1976, sweeping the New Jersey Nets. The Celtics fans might argue that Laimbeer had it coming, but Parrish wasn't exactly a saint either. This physical, no love-lost battle was just the beginning of the hatred between Laimbeer and the Celtics, one that still lingers to this day. By 1986, Detroit's front office made more brilliant moves. They drafted Joe Dumars, an elite two-way shooting guard, and acquired Rick Mahorn, a bruising enforcer who would become Laimbeer's partner in crime. That season, Laimbeer led the NBA in rebounding, averaging 13 boards per game while scoring an efficient 16.5 points per contest. Despite his dominance, the Pistons suffered a setback, losing to the Atlanta Hawks in the first round. Laimbeer was exceptional, averaging 22 points and 14 rebounds, but it wasn't enough. In the 1987 Eastern Conference Finals, Detroit found itself locked in a brutal war with the Boston Celtics. After dropping the first two games, the Pistons bounced back, winning Game 3 thanks in large part to Laimbeer. His infamous hard foul on Larry Bird sent the Celtics star crashing to the ground. Bird had had enough. He retaliated, throwing punches at Laimbeer, earning himself an ejection and sealing a Pistons victory. Detroit won Game 4 as well, setting the stage for a pivotal Game 5.
The 24-second clock goes down, and Bird and Laimbeer go at it.
The Pistons had a 1-point lead with just 5 seconds left and possession of the ball. They were on the verge of stealing a massive road win when Isaiah Thomas made one of the costliest mistakes of his career. Larry Bird picked off Thomas' inbound pass.
To Detroit. Bird steals it. Johnson. Layup. Boston. 1 second left.
Dished it to Dennis Johnson, and the Celtics snatched victory from the jaws of defeat. As if the heartbreak wasn't enough, another scuffle erupted in that game. This time, Robert Parrish lost his composure and punched Laimbeer twice.
It's a tip by Parrish. He can't get it to fall, and Parrish takes Laimbeer to the ground.
Unlike Bird, Parrish wasn't ejected, but he was suspended for Game 6. Without him, Detroit capitalized and forced a Game 7.
And the Pistons are going to send this to a 7th game at Boston Saturday.
The close loss only fueled Detroit's hunger. Under Daly's leadership, the Pistons decided to embrace an identity unlike any other: relentless, ruthless, and unapologetically aggressive. Their new strategy: 94-foot defense.
The Boston Celtics will go to the finals again.
Before the Pistons, NBA teams adhered to an unspoken agreement. Defensive pressure began after the opponent crossed half court. Detroit shattered this norm. They harassed opponents from the moment they inbounded the ball. With Laimbeer as their enforcer, the Pistons became the most feared and despised team in the league. They didn't lead the NBA in technical fouls, but they did lead in hit checks, forearms to the ribs, cheap shots to the groin, mid-air shoves, hard fouls after the whistle. Laimbeer was at the center of it all. He developed a notorious habit of stepping into players' landing areas after they shot, risking injury to opponents. It made him the single most hated player in NBA history. But did Laimbeer or the Pistons care? Not at all, because their plan was working. By the late 80s, the Celtics had been a dominant force, reaching 4 straight NBA Finals. Despite their aging core, they were still the favorites against the rising Pistons. But Detroit was ready for war.
Jordan. Clobbered. And that's what we're talking about when the Pistons want to make Jordan pay.
Before one of their most crucial matchups, Pistons forward Bill Laimbeer made his intentions clear. As he stepped onto the famous Boston Garden parquet, he walked straight to the center, spit on the Leprechaun logo, and smeared it with his sneakers. The arena erupted into chaos, but this time, the Celtics couldn't do anything about it. Detroit was ready to seize the throne. Then disaster struck.
Hail to the new Eastern Conference Kings, the Detroit Pistons finally.
31 years it took them.
In Game 6, Isaiah Thomas stepped on Michael Cooper's foot and severely sprained his ankle. He collapsed in pain. His season looked over, but Isaiah wasn't built like other players. Instead of sitting out, he did the unthinkable. He kept playing. Not just playing, but dominating.
Isaiah Thomas is hurt down on the court underneath the basket. I couldn't tell what happened.
After the finals, the NBA released a highlight VHS of Detroit's season, titled The Bad Boys. Instead of rejecting the label, Isaiah Thomas embraced it with his signature smirk. Soon, the entire team, and even the franchise, leaned into the identity.
Thomas off balance, basket counts and a foul as he goes into the first row, and he is still limping.
They were tough, physical, and unapologetic. If you wanted to score at the rim, you were going to pay the price, whether it was a hard Rodman foul, a Mahorn body check, or a Laimbeer elbow. And Detroit wasn't just rough, they were evolving. Laimbeer, once an unorthodox big man, embraced the three-point shot, averaging over 1 attempt per game for the first time in his career, hitting at a respectable 35% clip. His ability to stretch the floor forced opposing centers out of the paint.
The old man goes up and misses the shot, but goes to the line with 14 seconds to go and a chance to give the Lakers the lead.
The results? A franchise record 63 wins in the 1988-89 season. As Detroit stormed through the playoffs, they set their sights on a rising force. By the end of the series, Jordan had taken more hits than shots, and the Bulls couldn't keep up with the Pistons' relentless physicality. Detroit won in 6 games, booking a finals rematch with the Lakers.
He kept it in bounds. Here it is again. Oh, yes!
And unlike the heartbreak of '88, this time they finished the job. The Detroit Pistons swept the Lakers, capturing their first NBA championship. The Bad Boys had arrived. The Detroit Pistons of the late 1980s weren't just a basketball team. They were a revolution, a force of grit, toughness, and unrelenting willpower. And in their journey to the top, they had to go through 2 legendary dynasties, the Boston Celtics and the Los Angeles Lakers.
And we have our first tie of the game, and Magic Johnson may have pulled a hamstring.
By the late 80s, the Celtics had been a dominant force, reaching 4 straight NBA Finals. Despite their aging core, they were still the favorites against the rising Pistons. But Detroit was ready for war.
The game ends. The Lakers have won it again.
After the finals, the NBA released a highlight VHS of Detroit's season, titled The Bad Boys. Instead of rejecting the label, Isaiah Thomas embraced it with his signature smirk. Soon, the entire team, and even the franchise, leaned into the identity. They were tough, physical, and unapologetic. If you wanted to score at the rim, you were going to pay the price, whether it was a hard Rodman foul, a Mahorn body check, or a Laimbeer elbow. Jordan was already the best player in the NBA, a one-man wrecking crew capable of taking over any game. But Pistons coach Chuck Daly had a plan, the Jordan rules. By the end of the series, Jordan had taken more hits than shots.
Some easy field goals. Make it tough. Make it tough. No easy field goals. It's the only way we're going to get the lead back. No easy field goals.
And the Bulls couldn't keep up with the Pistons' relentless physicality. Detroit won in 6 games, booking a finals rematch with the Lakers. The Pistons smelled blood. This was their time. And unlike the heartbreak of '88, this time they finished the job. The Detroit Pistons swept the Lakers, capturing their first NBA championship.
The Pistons are the basketball champions of the world!
If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into the world of basketball. Hit that notification bell so you never miss an update. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.